Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Kainson Munonye, and welcome to the second knowledge area on process management knowledge areas. The previous knowledge area we considered was project integration knowledge area, where we discussed the 6 processes under the integration management knowledge area. Can you remember the 6 processes we discussed under the integration management knowledge area? The first one is develop project charter. Second, develop project management plan. Third, direct and manage project work. Then we have monitor and control project work, perform integrated change control, and close project or phase. These are the 6 processes under the integration management knowledge area. Today we are going to be discussing project scope management. But before we discuss the processes under the project scope management knowledge area, let's take a brief look at what really is project scope management. Our discussion will be based on the Pinboard Guide 5th edition. Project scope management includes the processes required to ensure that the project includes all the work required and only the work required to complete the project successfully. Managing the project scope is primarily concerned with defining and controlling what is and what is not included in the project. In the project context, the term scope can refer to product scope. These are features and functions that characterize a product, service, or result. Scope might also refer to project scope, the work performed to deliver a product, service, or result with the specified features and functions. The term project scope is sometimes viewed as including the project scope. Let's now look at the various processes under the project scope management knowledge area. The first one is plan scope management. Remember, in the Pinboard Guide 5th edition, all the knowledge areas now contain one planning process. And for the scope management knowledge area, we have plan scope management. This is the process of creating a scope management plan that documents how the project scope will be defined, validated, and controlled. The second is collect requirements, the process of determining, documenting, and managing stakeholder needs and requirements to meet project objectives. The third is define scope, the process of developing a detailed description of the project and products. Then we have create WBS. WBS stands for work breakdown structure. That is it, work breakdown structure. This is the process of subdividing project deliverables and project work into smaller, more manageable components. Now, these first 4 processes we've discussed fall under the planning process group. Then we also have validate scope. This is under the monitoring and controlling process group. Validate scope has to do with formalizing acceptance of completed project deliverables. So when we say validate scope, think of acceptance of the deliverables by the customer. Control scope, the process of monitoring the status of the project and product scope and managing changes to the scope baseline. So let's start with the first one, plan scope management. As we discuss plan scope management, the first knowledge area under the scope management knowledge area, we are going to look at the ITTOs, that is the inputs, tools and techniques, and the outputs. First, what is plan scope management? Plan scope management is the process of creating a scope management plan that documents how the project scope will be defined, validated, and controlled. The key benefit of this process is that it provides guidance and direction on how scope will be managed throughout the project. What are the inputs to the plan scope management process? The inputs are the scope management plan, the project charter, enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets. We have two tools and techniques. One of them is expert judgments and then meetings. The output is scope management plan. Then we have requirements management plan. Let's take a closer look at the inputs, and then we also take a closer look at the tools and techniques and the outputs. What we are going to focus on is why do we need this input? Once you understand why we need the inputs, then it will be easy for you to remember these ITTOs for the processes. Why do we need the project management plan when we are in the plan scope management process? That is the question we are going to discuss. Well, remember that the approved subsidiary plans of the project management plan are used to create scope management plan and influence the approach taken for planning scope and managing project scope. Why do we need the project charter as an input to plan scope management? Because the project charter provides the context needed to plan the scope management processes. It provides high-level project description and product characteristics from the project statement of work. Why do we need enterprise environmental factors? Because these are factors that can influence the plan scope management process and includes organizational culture, infrastructure, personnel administration, marketplace conditions. And the fourth input is organizational process assets. The organizational process assets that can influence the plan scope management process includes policies and procedures, and historical information, and lesson learned knowledge base. What are the tools and techniques? We say the tools and techniques according to the Pinball Guide 5 is expert judgment and meetings. Expert judgment refers to input received from knowledgeable and experienced parties that can help in the planning of the scope management. Expertise may be provided by any group or person with specialized education, knowledge, skill, experience, or training in developing scope management plans. The second tool and technique is meetings. The project teams may attend project management meetings to develop the scope management plan. Attendees at the meetings may include the project manager, the project sponsor, selected project team members, selected stakeholders, anyone with responsibility for any of the scope management processes, and others as needed. So take note, the tools and techniques for plan scope management is expert judgment and meetings. The outputs is simple. The first one, as you know, scope management plan. The scope management plan is a component of the project, or the project program management plan describes how the scope will be defined, developed, monitored, controlled, and verified. The scope management plan is a major input into the developed project management plan processes and other scope management processes. Remember, the project management plan is a collection of other subsidiary plans. Remember also that the input to develop project management plan is output from other processes. Another output of the plan scope management is a requirements management plan. The requirement management plan is a component of the project management plan. It describes how requirements will be analyzed, documented, and managed. Some things inside or contained in the requirement management plan include how requirements activities will be planned, tracked, and reported, configuration management activities such as how changes to the product will be initiated, how impact will be analyzed, and how they will be traced, tracked, and reported, as well as the authorization levels required to approve these changes. Requirement prioritization process is also a component of the requirement management plan. Product metrics that will be used and the rationale for using them. Traceability structure to reflect which requirement attributes will be captured on the requirement traceability matrix. I hope this has been informative for you. Take note, what we discussed is plan scope management process, the first process under the scope management knowledge area. Get your head around the ITTOs, the inputs are for project management plan, project charter, enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets, tools and techniques, expert judgment and meetings, 2 outputs, scope management plan, and requirement management plan. So please join me in my next video where I'll discuss the second process under the scope management knowledge area, and that is collect requirements. So please join me.